Hello, everyone. It is Sunday, October 6th. It is 7:30 p.m. Central Time. I am LTJ Reeves. This is Throwing Light. And if you're not throwing light, you're not acting right. Tonight, we got a very special episode. I put a panel together of some of the finest people that I know in the community. We're going to be talking about various aspects of voting this episode. Before I start and introduce everybody, I want everybody to remember that this was a collaboration, Throwing Light, that started with Ashwell, ATX.org, or Ashwell Sexual Health and Wellness. They provide so much to our local community here in Austin. I want to continually to uplift them as they provide services for our physical health, mental health. They even have a food bank. And if you would, please go over to AshwellATX.org to learn more about Ashwell. And if you'd like, please make a donation or you can contribute to the food bank. With that being said, let's kick it over. I've got some new guests and some returning guests tonight. I'm going to go ahead and start with our new guests. How are you, Austin, Mr. Fire Dancer 2024?
Hi, I'm doing well. Excited to be here. Thank you very much.
All right. This has been we've figured finally got you on here. I know you like watching it and everything. Let's kick it on over to
I
Demarcus.
do.
Hello, Demarcus. This is your first go.
Hello, everybody. I am really excited to be a part of this panel and discussion tonight.
Fantastic. Now we're going to go to people that have been here before. Tobias, my head judge for my step down in a couple of Welcome back, Tobias. How are you?
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here, especially talking specifically about something that moves my heartbeat and makes my passion goes faster is about voter, specifically more or less in Georgia voter registration. And I'm here to lay it down tonight.
Let's do it. All right, Stormy, you're back. How are you?
I'm doing really good. We're gearing up for Mr. and Miss Hidden Door later this October, and we're staying busy with ALU. We registered 15 people last night at 1851, so we're on a really good trajectory. And so we're about to hit 50 for this voting kind of section of the year. But things are going good. I'm excited, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. And finally, my IMO brother, Vince. How are you? I'm glad you're able to make it. You've had a busy day with voter registration. I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad I could make it too.
All right.
It was a fantastic turnout today. We had just wonderful show up from the community. We had, our IML Jamal was here. We had the Imzil Goddess Indigo came to join us. The Chicago Sisters, and a bunch of other title holders here, current and past title holders as well. So it was just an incredible show of support, and we got a number of people signed up today as well. So we were just rocking and rolling. So very happy to be. Thank you.
That's awesome. So let's go ahead and kick us off. Hey, Tobias, I want to start with you. So you're over there in Georgia, right? Demarcus, are you in Georgia too? I know that you guys recently had an event together, but Tobias, why don't we kick off with you and what you're up to with voting?
Okay, well, Demarcus and I, which not only are we friends, we are literally family. We've co-hosted several events. Demarcus owned a brand party called Gag, and I run a theme party called Bulge. So we do a lot of collaborations. But as far as voting initiative and the voter registration, both of us are registered and certified voter registrars for the state of Georgia. And we did a back-to-back event because there are so many voter registration events. But factually, what I do want to say that I found a new passion over the last couple of days is that 4.5 million people have been arrested in the state of Georgia. In the past, has made them ineligible, but they've had convictions, and most of them can vote. That's what I do want to make a point of. And that you can take a 15-minute quiz, which is a novotesbarred.com, which helps Georgians understand that if you have been arrested in the past, out of these 4.5 million, most of them are still eligible to vote. So that's my first talking point, and I'll make space for everyone else with their talking points. But it's just we're charged up here in Georgia. Georgia has typically gone very red in the state. But if you look at the metropolitan areas, we have three major cities in Georgia. We have Macon, Atlanta, and Savannah. Those are our larger cities. Those cities typically go blue. Everything else typically goes red. but the overwhelming population in our major cities, somehow in 2020, we won the state. We won the state for the 2020 election, which was a surprise. And Georgians typically are very enthusiastic about Democratic leadership. So that's my focus. I think Demarcus is on board with those sentiments. And I just want us to cross this finish line sooner than later. Sooner than
Is
later.
that Jamal? Hello, Jamal.
Hey, sweetheart.
Hey, boo-boo.
Hey, Jamal.
Hey, boo.
What's up? We got a special guest.
Nothing. I was just coming to ask Vince if he needed a cup of water or something. He was thirsty.
I got my
that's so
coffee, but yeah,
sweet.
some water be good. Thank you, baby. No. Oh, can you do that light on? It's a little dark in here. Thank you.
Come on, Redbone.
All right, I'm gonna just kick it back over to Demarcus to elaborate on what y'all are doing.
So this is something that it more so irritates me. We had two gentlemen of color that was at our voter registration, and we approached them and asked them if they wanted to register to vote. And they looked at me and they said, "No, I'm good."
That's a response.
So it kind of hit me real heavy. And I'm like, how do I come back and ask, why are you good? Like, out of all the things that have been fought from our elders and Harriet Tubman and all of that, and you look at another Black man and tell us you're good. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
From women's rights and all of this, and it's just like, you're good, but we had to go to the Underground Railroad to get this far and all of this, and it's just like, I didn't believe it. It left me shocked.
So are these both not just African American men? They're also queer men, right?
Correct.
And that's we struggle with what I call as there's just I don't want to say malay. There just seems to be a little bit of just disinterest when it comes to that. I don't know what has happened over the span of decades that people don't have that desire as much as they did in the past. But how did that make you feel when you had that conversation with them?
It made me angry as hell.
What did
I
you
wanted to fight them.
how let's not fight. I don't want to go. I don't want to go back to jail. I've been to jail once. I'm not going back.
I get it. But it was like,
Goddess? Oh my.
What is going on?
Goddess.
Hold on. Come back.
Get over here, girl.
Goddess,
Hey,
I've been trying. Hey, Goddess, I'm trying to get in contact with you. I want to get in contact with you. I'm gonna reach out to you. Okay.
Absolutely.
I
Oh,
need you.
Master J. Tebias Perry, Austin. The Austins. Oh my goodness. Oh, and Stormy. I need to talk with Stormy.
Yes, ma'am. You got it.
I just wanted to make sure that he's well hydrated and that he's not blinding you with the sheen over here. Okay. There we go.
Lewis,
All the love.
if I may piggyback off of Demarcus for just 1 second, what I will say is in this voting cycle, from the ages of 18 to 34, I'm sorry, people, as far as demographic wise, white women and African American queer and gay men identifying between the ages of 18 to 35, they have in the past voted collectively their own interests. And I think that's where Demarcus and I ran into. But keep in mind, as deputy voter registrars, Austin knows this, Vince knows this, we cannot talk on a partisan level. And that within itself is the difficult part here in Georgia because of our restrictive laws and voter registration suppressions that we have. Entering into a debate or a dispute of any sort like that can get you quickly, possibly arrested. And it's that serious. So I know the restraint that Demarcus is talking about, but he knows the importance of us being there from a nonpartisan standpoint and making sure that all we want to do is just make sure that your voter registration is either active or inactive. Your address needs to be changed or not. Your tax ID, your taxes have been paid. You have no back arrears, and you are an active voter. That is it. Because Georgia is now the voting rights are so restrictive is that we cannot even hand anyone a bottle of water while they're standing in line. We can't even give them a slice of pizza as we used to in the past. If so, allegedly your voting for that cycle can be thrown out. So it's
So,
serious here in Georgia.
y'all
Yeah.
know I'm not everything I do to some degree has intention. It was completely in my interest to have Georgia people on this panel tonight. And Texas. Like, I think having this coming out of a lot of these, difficult places and showing that we have this progressive leadership that we want to do is a great thing for us. We've got Vince over in Illinois, which is traditionally a blue state, but still that's a perspective that's great to mix in with this conservatism that we're dealing with right now. I do want to get back to Georgia and how tight of a race it is in a little bit. Stormy, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, and I'm a deputy registrar as well for Tarrant, Denton County, and Dallas County, and we'll get some jokes. Not only can I just relate, I can also sympathize with Demarcus and like that. It's almost like a jab of well, I'm voting for so and so, and I'm to elicit a reaction as a deputy registrar. Just like Tobias said, I don't know exactly if we can have our stuff taken away, but in the trainings that we are given at the very beginning, you are not supposed to show favoritism. You're not supposed to show your opinion. You keep it neutral. And so, I'll just laugh it off at the bar while I'm walking around registering people to vote at the door. And, I'll get these jabs and, it makes me kind of like, I have to chuckle to brush it off, but, it's not a joke. It's not of a joking matter. So I've experienced that personally whenever I'm registering people to vote as well. So
Can you give me an example of some of the jabs that you get when you are talking to people?
sure. So I was trying not to mention him by name, but while I'm voting for Trump, and I'm like, okay, and if I don't know if anybody knows me very personally, it's very hard for me to control what it goes on my face. So it just kind of, even if I don't say it, I try to keep my composure and say, yes, sir, I understand. I just want to make sure, you register for this election. And unfortunately I have to follow a script. Otherwise I'm going to get sidetracked. So, but that's one of them. Another one is, well, things regarding immigration, things that don't matter regarding these candidates, just digs. So sometimes it's towards some, and sometimes it's just towards the voting process in general, or I don't believe in that. So it's hard.
I just constantly don't say the T word ever.
Yeah.
I
try not to.
To be honest, we've gotten to a point in this country where we can't have a sensible political dialogue. So I just have, y'all notice, y'all haven't seen me post, do anything. I'm working behind the scenes and getting people together because at this point, y'all, let's be real. Like, who hasn't made their mind up for who they want to vote for? This whole idea that they're people, it seems very much a very locked in ideological civil war, and nothing's going to change that tension right now. Austin, how do you feel about that being in Houston, which is a very large blue city in Texas, probably one of the cities that's going to ultimately turn the state blue? You're in, and I don't, but because this happened to me during the 2016 election. Sometimes we're in a bubble. And it was a blow to me when we lost. Being around such a large community that is very positive and blue, how do you deal with people outside of that in these more red areas? Or have you engaged people often that are not from Houston as you're doing this? You go up to Dallas, like what's some of the more difficult conversations that you've had?
Yeah, absolutely. To start off with, I just want to give a number. As of the beginning of October, Texas saw the biggest percent change in new registered voters with an 8.69 increase in registered voters. And then second place was Georgia with 7.31. So between Texas and Georgia, we're registering new voters. We're out there, we're doing the work. But all that to say, Houston is a blue bubble in a red state. And so while it does take an hour to drive from Houston to Houston, when you enter into those red communities, you're very easily, you realize how sheltered you are in these spaces. I mean, my very first time registering voters, I had someone try to spit on me because I they saw that it was unfit that I was trying to do this in a bar where they thought they could just go and like turn off the brain and turn off reality. And so people just have very negative reactions of I had people ask to see my voter deputy card, see my number to make sure that I was an actual real person that was allowed to do this and to ask about my training and where I did it. And so that's just information that you have to have at the ready because you need to show these people that you've gone through the training, you know what you're talking about, and you want to stay within those legal realms of what you can and cannot do. I had people offer, hey, if you're going to do this at the bar, why don't you offer discounts on drinks or give away free underwear or anything like that? And you can't, there's incentives that you can and cannot do, and it's a very gray area. And so it's a very tricky realm, and just to not risk throwing out other people's registration, I didn't even risk that.
Okay, all right. Vince, so you have a link. I want to play that in a second, but I want to kick it to you. What has been some of the challenges that you have gotten in terms into connecting with people or registering people to vote?
Yeah, I think here in Chicago, I mean, like we're very blessed that we are in a very strongly blue, not just a bubble, but blue state generally. You get outside the cities and you do see a lot of areas that are very red, and of course have to remain, very bipartisan and neutral in when registering votes. So similar to what I'm hearing from the rest of the folks as deputy registrars, you really have to, maintain that professionalism, so to speak. But for us, what I found is a lot of folks are like, oh yeah, we're good. Or I think a lot of people just kind of just assume like, wait, well, we're already blue. I don't think we need to really, this, our vote doesn't matter. It doesn't really, we don't need to do that kind of thing. So I think for me, it's been very much of a personal kind of mission to make sure that folks are understanding that every vote does count. We can't take this for granted. We can't go back to what happened in 2016. Because that came down to the wire. I mean, we're talking like what was it, 0.001% of the vote made the difference. So, even though, I mean, I'd be registering thousands and thousands of people at these drives. I mean, it all adds up. So I think getting people involved, getting them aware. And then what I also find is getting a lot of folks who've like moved or changed addresses or moved to the city recently. A lot of people think that like, oh, well, I haven't done the DMV or got my license updated or my ID, whatever. They think that they can't register. But one of the cool things about being a deputy registrar is you, at least here in Illinois, I don't know if I'd be curious to hear other states, but as long as I can have something with their name on it, their current address, and like one other piece of ID, it could be like a debit card or a utility bill or anything. Just I can just have two forms as a deputy registrar. You can just kind of verify those things and get people registered. And a lot of people are just like kind of blown away by that. And even myself, when I first learned this, I was like, wow, like that's makes it so much easier. Like the barrier to getting registered is not as difficult as it needs to be. So I think getting that information out to people is really important.
I don't know. We live in a kind of, we have a lazy culture where people make just registering to vote this big mound, this hill to climb because no one wants to just do simple things to be involved. And like being someone, at work and things and seeing how that sometimes people just, don't want to be challenged. It can be hard sometimes, especially in this atmosphere. Vince, when I come back to you, I want to play the clip that we have, if that's cool with you. I want to jump back over to Demarcus and Tobias real quick. If I'm correct right now, polling, I think Trump has the edge in Georgia just by a little bit, if I'm correct, in recent polling.
It's been going back and forth between 1 to 2 points, but the last that I checked, which was Friday, was I think he was in an advance by 1 point. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. I mean, it's going to fluctuate like that. But the voters have changed in Florida and Georgia majorly towards the Democratic ticket. But we need to keep in mind, this is not just about our presidential and vice presidential elects. This is about our local, elections, such as our sheriffs, our county judges, all of that, all the way down to it, because that makes a difference as well too. So it's not just about presidential or vice president. Demarcus.
Yeah, one of the other things, like I kept hearing y'all say that y'all register people at the bar and in the bar. Well, in Georgia, unfortunately,
Restriction.
we can't do that. We cannot register them with alcohol. So that's one of the things that we are not allowed to do. We have to be X amount of feet away from any alcohol. So that is one of the things here that we fight, another defense mechanism that they use to not allow people to get registered to vote. Also, they were trying to pass a bill literally 2 weeks ago where if you were an active voter, you couldn't vote. They were going to make them re-register again. So there's a lot of things here in this state that they actively try to do to suppress the vote.
Voter suppression is, and it's like, and what's crazy is that we see people doing this. I don't understand what the disconnect between reality and republicanism is, but like literally everything that we see is our truth. And there's this alternate reality that I don't sometimes understand. And they really believe that suppressing the vote is helping them win, right?
True.
And that's cheating, right?
But see, that's the art of voter suppression. When they say there's a system that's built, and that is it's a system that's built. This system of voter suppression, mainly with minorities, the system is surprisingly working. I'm not saying that it is swaying voters, but it is working to suppress the Black Hispanic vote here in Georgia. And we need to make sure that we are encouraging everyone that's in our phone, that's within our respective states, even outside of our states, to make sure that they vote. I don't care who you vote for. Just make sure that you exercise your civic duty, and that is to vote. One more point that I wanted to make is that stay at home and say that this is not for me. It's going to be what it's going to be. This election is going to be the groundbreaking election for our lifetime. I'm almost 56 years old, and I've been voting ever since I could vote at 18. This is a groundbreaking vote. If you read the 908 pages of the Project 2025, a third of that, a third of that is for sexual freedom, for women's rights. If they got rid of Roe versus Wade, and then they got rid of affirmative action for Black colleges and people who want to go to an HBCU and get that advantage to do that, that is no more. Everything is just leveled because we know that this system of racism and the premise of how our country was built is built to keep certain people back. And we just need to change that. So I'll get off my soapbox for that. But
No, you're
yes.
fine. Stormy, what about you? What do you think? Are you encountering things like that? Negative attributes, personalities as you're registering, are people pushing back, or are you getting people that like what are you encountering in terms of conflicts with political issues?
Yeah. So, I mean, any type of conflict you can imagine. I've been assaulted at the bar because I just asked a question. It's this guy, I already had a couple drinks. I've been spit on, just like Austin. I mean, I don't want a queer registering me. And I'm like, okay, well, buddy, I'm the guy who has the clipboard. Either you want to register or you don't. And, I ask that question respectfully and we move on. So anything and everything you can think of. I mean, obviously, as an AFAB human, we are terrified. Roe v. Wade, I marched for months after it was revoked. I mean, and it's not just what are we experiencing? I mean, like Tobias said, this literally lays the pavement for the next decade. Because if we could turn everything blue or, the house blue, we would just we would be set. And so I was watching, I've been doing, as a registrar, I've been doing my research and my part of it. And, if this could set the stage for Tim Buttigieg to come in, for AOC to come in. I mean, we have some really powerful people on Capitol Hill right now that support our, who we are as people and what we believe in. So, other than just basic Texas yeehaw cowboys at the bar, I've been all over the place. I've been at a Costco, I've been at Sam's, and most of the time, aren't you a little too young to be doing this? So I get to educate them about the process of becoming a registrar and the training that I have received, and Austin both. So, it is an educational opportunity. And I try to take it one step at a time. So that's what I've received and what I've gotten, out registering people. But 9 times out of 10, most people are pretty kind and, will respectfully say, yes, I am, or no, or, I'm not interested. So it's about 50-50.
Austin, have you got any pushback?
I have. Of course, to echo off Stormy, I've had people try to spit at me. I've tried to have people try to throw me out of the bar, ask for my license to do this. But then, of course, I also just had people come up to me and say, "Thank you for doing this. Thank you for being here. If you weren't here, I just was not going to vote." It sounds like such a hard process. I don't have a car. I can't make it to the DPS. Insert any excuse here.
Yep.
The process has just been an obstacle. It's been a hurdle to get people to not vote or to just say, it's not my thing. I'm not really interested. But by making ourselves available, by each one of us taking up 3 hours on a Sunday or an hour here, whatever it may be, by each one of us here trying to make a positive impact in our communities and our spaces that we're at, we're making a difference. And so I personally have only registered 11 people, but that's 11 more than what there were. And so every little bit helps, and I'm just very thankful. And yeah, of course, there's been the hurdles, but I'm very proud of myself and for each one of us that have done this work. It's important.
Fantastic. Vince, so would you like me to go ahead and play your clip now?
Yeah, my boy just edited it. Like, we just put this together. It's like we just edited this thing a couple hours ago. So I hope it just gives you a little taste of what we were able to kind of pull together. Just the preface to this is that I feel I'm very emotional right now because I'm feeling just so like overwhelmingly grateful for the folks in our community who have came together for this event. And so anyhow, I guess roll the clip and you'll see kind of a little taste of what we were able to do today. Thank you.
All right, no, am I sharing? This is my first time doing this, y'all. All right, can
You got it.
You see it?
Yep.
Let's do this.
Hey, I'm Vince J, Mr. Chicago Leather 2024. I'm here today at the Leather Archives Museum here in Chicago getting folks registered to vote. I'm here also with a lot of friends, including the International Mrs. Leather, Pup Savage, the Goddess Indigo, our current International Mrs. Leather, and our Chicago Leather Ambassador, Denny Danger. In addition to the Second City Sisters and other title holders. We were really excited because we were here getting folks not only registered to vote, but verifying their process, making sure everyone's ready to go for election day. As you know, this upcoming election, there's a lot at stake here for those with queer, leather, and communities, and we want to make sure that we're ready to step up and participate.
So voting is important to me because it is one of the 100% guaranteed privilege that every American voter enjoys. And as for me, as someone that comes from a place where an area of the states where voter registration is like 12% shut down, it's important for us to get our voices out there and make our voices fucking heard. No matter what,
voting is important to me because it is literally the way to make your voice heard. And it's an important thing to care about, not just every 4 years when the presidential election comes around, but every time there is an election, in your local elections especially. I am from Texas and watched over 30 years the state change entirely because we ignored local school board elections. And so it's really, really important to register to get to know what is happening in your own community and then vote up rather than vote down.
I think it's important to me because it is how we use our voice, how we advocate for policy positions that we support. Democracy is the system that we have, and it is flawed. But this is where we have to use our voice. And while the sisters don't support particular politicians, we do support policy positions that center freedom, liberation, self-expression, and LGBTQ rights and acceptance. And so we're thrilled to be here today, getting people to use their voice, no matter what they're saying in the ballot booth. We have a vote. And
yeah, I like the food one. I was honored earlier to have a young lady walk past. I asked if she was registered to vote, and she told me I'm not because I'm 15. And we discussed the importance of when she turned 18 to register and to because we each have a voice.
It's important to me because my vote is my voice. If I don't use my voice, I'm silent, and that's not right.
Voter registration. Register to vote.
Voting is our right, constitutional right, to express who we want to vote for. What are we voting for? It is important for everyone to express that constitutional right, because I mean, otherwise it will be a right that's been taken from us. We have to practice that way.
Allow our voice to be heard.
Because in this day and age, if you want your rights secured, you need to be able to vote. So registering is incredibly important. But it's also important to me because I hear a lot of people bitching left, right, and center about the state of the world, and they didn't vote. If you want a right to bitch, you should vote.
Me, that family, future that is going desperately to protect. If you don't vote, it's somebody else will vote for you.
I am a child of immigrants. I came to this country, looking for the American dream, and through a lot of hard work and luck, I've been able to achieve that to some degree. It's important because we get to express our votes and our opinion into the things that we really support, whether that's LGBTQ rights, getting access to our trans brothers and sisters, or just make sure that there's funding to have HIV and child care. So those are a little bit of the things that I have always kept at the front of the front of my voting. But that's why it's important. It's our voice. We can't steal it. So,
Yes, our vote is important. We can't be silent. We must not control. Be heard. Have your voice be heard for sure. If we don't speak up, look what's going to happen. The world's going to crumble. Our rights are being infringed. Go out, make a change. Go vote.
In this day and age, being part of the community, we need to be able to speak up, speak out, and the best way to do that is to vote, to make sure we have the right couple of power.
Way we use our voice to make a difference, to protect ourselves, and make sure that our values develop the government. Without it, we're allowing others to make a decision.
Fantastic. Great work, Vince. Very great work.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you.
how do you feel?
Again, just very, very grateful, very humbled, but just also just feeling very blessed at the support from the local community here and from Jamal, from Goddess Indigo, from all the other title holders you saw there, from just everyone who really came together. Chicago has kind of experienced some different movements, shall we say, within our kink and leather community over the last years. And for me, this is just like almost restorative to see everyone coming together over this joint cause, that we can all connect on. So that I just feel very proud and very humbled and blessed right now.
Fantastic. So I'm going to throw this question to y'all. What do you believe it's going to take to win? What do we need to do as a community to get in a place where we can win? I'm going to kick this over to you, Austin.
I feel like we've done half the work. The other half is for people to actually show up now and vote. In the 2020 election, 66% of people that were already registered actually followed through to vote. So a third of people did not even show up either in early voting or on voting day. So we need people to thank you for registering, but we need you to show up either in your early voting period or on election day itself to make your voice actually heard. And so that's what's going to take.
Stormy?
I'm right there with Austin. Right now, I have a group of friends in the Dallas Metroplex, kind of covering a few different counties, but most of the Metroplex. We're currently setting up pods, so like voting pods. So somebody can take a different like Monday, Wednesday, Friday during early voting, and so we can switch off on who wants to drive or who wants to carry everybody down to the polling region in their area. So honestly, that's what I'm doing. But I think other than just following through, making sure your friends show up, your family shows up, if you have friends or neighbors that might be differently abled, even just helping them get down the stairs or get down the elevator and get them to the polls as well. So that's what we're currently kind of organizing, but mainly just focusing on those neighbors who can and cannot drive. So that's what we're doing over here.
I mean, that is literally why someone won't go vote. Oh, I don't have a ride. That's
Yep.
how easy it is for us to give up our power. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. It's not convenient. It's not convenient for me. So, dealing with a lot of that.
Demarcus, what do you think it's going to take for us to win?
I think it's going to take going back to community, helping those around us and helping out our seniors. Also, the simple fact of the matter is, if the lines are long, take a chair with you, sit out there and wait. I don't care if it's 7 o'clock when they're closing the polls. Guess what? If you're in line at 7 o'clock, they have to allow you in the building to vote. And a lot of people don't know that. And that's why I continue to share things on social media. If you're in line on the day of the polls and it's 7 o'clock, they have to allow you. But also checking to make sure that your polling location has not changed and you're driving to an old location because you failed to check that you went to the wrong location. Now you got to drive all the way across town to get to somewhere else. And that could harm you from not allowing yourself to vote. So
then, part of, and I'll get to this as we conclude and stuff like that, but, I think the thing here is that it's most important for us to come together as a community. Like, we have policies that want to hurt us. And we have to really think about that. And I loved in that video how they said they're not really about a candidate, they're about policies. That is, that is something to get behind if you don't want to get behind the person. And then, as Tobias pointed out, this elections are for multi-local. There are plenty of local offices, and we're only as good as our local awareness, to be honest with you. If you're not aware of what's going on in your local community, how can you contribute to a positive dialogue for our national community? Tobias, what is it going to take for us to win?
As I've always said, and I was raised in a political family, entrepreneurs, and people who held offices. It's going to take us knowing what threats are out there that's going to be barriers during this voting cycle. There's an organization that's a spinoff of the MAGA movement called Vigilante Inc. Vigilante Inc. Please make yourself knowledgeable of that. In 2020 election, they started out with 88 members. Now, in this cycle, 40,000 spinoffs from the MAGA movement. And they are challenging voters. They're challenging African Americans, saying that you guys are not part of the Constitution. My dog is more value, has more value. I mean, the Constitution says that, in the past, that Black folks are, 1/5 of human and all this other stuff. Those things, we need to know what the threats are and the barriers are in order for us to go across and be able to be an active voter. Check your tax records, as I said. Make sure that you don't have anything in back arrears, child support. property tax, or anything that could make you ineligible for voting. So knowing the barriers, educating yourself will keep us where we need to be. Thank you.
That's always on point and beautiful, Tobias. And so what I'm trying to understand, and you'll help me here. I don't see anything over on the red side of the aisle that is going to help trans people, that's going to help LGBTQI plus people. I don't see that. And so for me to be here and to have this panel here talking about voting, and when I'm talking about voting together, who else are we going to vote for but Kamala Harris? You explain that to me. Does anyone agree with me? What are our other options? Don't we see someone on the side of the aisle that is reaching out to us, that is trying to make inroads, that does want to include us, that does want to help trans people? I'm going to tell y'all this story, and this is my little spiel, is that I came from a conservative environment where I was the first Pride president in Lafayette, Louisiana. I majoritarily had to deal with gay Republicans. I have had some of the meanest and most hateful stuff done to me in leadership because of those principles. I was sexually assaulted, and a gay Republican told me I deserved it. And I was a community leader helping them. So I am going to be very frank and direct that I believe that if you are a person of our community and you're not voting for a community, either it is self-hate or it's racism. And I am going to lean towards racism and a lot of things because I know there are people that are LGBTQI plus that are racist. And that does not work. And I think if we want to be very, very, very clear and start calling out, that is why you're not voting for the blue party, because you either are a self-hater or you are a racist. And you can tell me different, but the facts and everything are there. I have the experiences, I've been through it, but I'm going to challenge people that are of our community to vote with our community because it's in their best interest. It is not in your best interest to be a lapdog. Do you understand me? Does everyone understand what I'm saying?
I completely agree. And I call those turfers, because I wrote an article about 5 years ago called A Broken System Within a Broken System. Racism is I've experienced more racism within the gay community than the het and cis community. Seriously, for whatever reason, is that we have this infighting that I've seen, that's between us, that the racism that I've experienced, and I've taught classes on race play and cross the spectrum from a safe space, and still voting rights, we will say one thing at the bar, and then when you get in the ballot box, your vote is completely different. So we need to really change that to get us
That
across
was
the aisle.
actually a big thing in the 2008 election. You remember that, Tobias? People saying they were going to vote for Barack Obama, but when they got to the things, they were like, no, I can't do it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the language was, it's fine for a black man to be president, but not now. They said the same damn thing about Hillary Clinton in 2016. Yes, we are ready for a woman president, but we're not ready right now. If the time is not now, then when? Then when? We need to come out of this primitive thinking that we have and move the nation forward.
We're not going back. I don't want to go back. What is back? Explain to me what back looks like. Are you
Back
talking about back to Reconstruction when blacks?
No, black is the white picket fence. Back is the white picket fence with a white wife in a little small 2-bedroom, 1-bath house with pushing a stroller, and black people live on the other side of the tracks. That's what they mean when they said taking us back. When black people were suppressed and
Leave It to Beaver doesn't come on anymore. That was in the 1950s. I mean, nobody wants to go back to the 1950s unless you are, you know who.
Yeah, redlining as well, which is the thing here in Georgia. And the other thing too, let me tell you guys this, and what they're doing in all of the United States, they are redistricting. Now, Vince, you can help me out with this. They're rezoning and districting certain zoning areas that were massively blue, and they're splitting them into different zoning areas to make the vote change from not being so blue, and redlining other ethnicities in those areas. And believe it or not, Hispanics, the voting is surprising, especially in Florida. The Cuban vote, the Hispanic vote is surprisingly different for conservatism than it is for democracy. And we just need to educate people, because there are certain Hispanics and even Black where colorism is the barometer for how you vote. If you're lighter skinned and you say, "Hey guys, and hi guys, how are you guys doing?" I don't understand anyone that's from my race that can vote in that manner. And there is bipartisanship that is healthy. That's the only way we're going to move the country forward in the Senate or in Congress. But when you know what's on the table that's voting against you in your demographic, that's insane to me. You're voting against what's going to actually tear you down, tax you more. Your children's school, if not taxes, are going to be higher. So he's not talking to these people with the 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom house with these big Trump signs in their yard. He's talking about the voters that make $1 million plus to get these tax breaks and incentives. So these people who are typically uneducated in Georgia are voting against their own interests. So, Vince.
Vince,
Yeah.
Vince, I would like you to go ahead. Why don't you give us your final thoughts for now?
Yeah, I will just do a quick response here, Tobias. Thank you. Because yeah, gerrymandering is real. Those that are in power love to redistribute these maps in a way that's going to just benefit them. There's a whole science behind it, and it happens over and over and over again. But that's its own kind of thing. I think what we have to look at is with what we have now, how do we get people to the polls? Not just like you said, not just registering, not just saying, okay, yeah, or yeah, I registered, I'm good, I'm good. That means nothing if people do not actually show up and vote on election day. So I think that for me, needs to be the thing we need to be pushing hard for. So for me as a deputy registrar, after Tuesday, I can't do any more, in-person registrations, but I feel like my job from here until the election is getting people motivated, getting them out, and making sure they have a voting plan on election day or before, early voting by mail. At least here in Illinois, we have options, but I think that's also part of the continued education we need to keep pushing forward with. So, one last final thought and just comment. Thank you all for the work you're doing here for our community. I'm just blown away, and I just feel again very grateful for everything y'all are doing. And just let's keep this going.
Fantastic. Demarcus, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I think like Vince just said, the work is not over. The work is just now beginning. This is going to be the hard part. The hard part is getting those people that you have already got signed up and registered to vote to actually show up. A lot of people do a lot of talking and say that I'm going to do this, but now we've got to follow up with them and say, hey, what's your plan? Are you going? How are you getting there? Are you doing early voting? Are you voting by mail? Do you know where you could drop that voting by mail off in your county? Do you know what time the polls are open and all of that stuff? That's something that's so simple, but a lot of people don't have access, to that information, especially those elderly people, especially illiterate people. So those are the ones that need to do early voting by mail, because they need somebody to help them vote because they can't go up there at the poll and actually cast their vote. So that is something we need to take a step further and help those people.
Okay. I'm gonna go last. Austin, what are your final thoughts?
It's a very important time, and we need to continue the work and just push through. We're close to the end, and your local elections matter. The presidential election matters. We need to care about the people that we love, and we need to care about our community and make sure that our voices are heard.
So, Tobias, what are your final thoughts?
My heart is in this thing. And I know that certain things, as far as being a decorated veteran, um, being married, gay marriage, all of those things are on the ballots for me. I mean, I share an interest in probably 60% of the stuff that's in Project 2025. And I want to see um, a fairness and a more respectful election. But the opposite side has made it almost virtually impossible to do that. And I think that if we did more bipartisan initiatives, we would be much better off as a country. And sharing time in London and here, we are the laughing stock, but yet they call us the superpower. We're not the superpower when we don't value voting rights of the lesser of these, as far as the lesser of these, excuse me, as far as the Black vote, valuing our HBCU schools and making the playing field even. You know, some of our neighborhoods and some of our demographics are not afforded a privilege as most of America financially, the infrastructure of different neighborhoods. And we need to make sure that everyone and the riches of this country, as they profess, is spread out evenly. So that's what I really want to see, is all of us being able to be afforded to win.
I'm gonna, I guess, thank you, Tobias. For me, I'm gonna go back to this voting together, and because you're talking about bipartisanship, and maybe help me here, y'all, but there's tons of Republican leadership that's supporting Kamala Harris right now. More so than I would.
250 of them, to be exact.
Obama
250 active Republicans are voting for her.
Obama did not do that. She got the freaking endorsement of Dick Cheney. I would have never thought. You told me that in 2004 that Dick Cheney was going to endorse Kamala Harris. I would have been like, what? We know what we went through back then, if you remember that. But this is my deal, and I just want to leave this to the community with this message: is targeting and villainizing people. People on both sides feel like they're being targeted. I know that's hard to believe, but I think we can do a better job at outlining exactly who our enemy is. And our enemy is MAGA. It's not Republicans. And we can see that as that Republicans are getting tired of that. I want to encourage everybody to remember that no matter what Trump does, he's never going to win the popular vote. He's only going to try to go for the electoral college, or he's going to cheat. He's already cheating. He's a cheater. If you don't believe he's a cheater, then you're not throwing light. You're throwing darkness. And so my thing is too, I want us as a community to be very careful on who we frame as our enemies right now, because there are Republicans that are willing to work with us. And I just want y'all to remember that. And it's that bipartisan effort, because what we're seeing a cult take over a political party with a very loud megaphone. But they're not organized in terms of helping the country. They're organized in terms of destroying the country. And I want everybody to, y'all know me, I don't go on about politics. I don't enjoy talking about them because I can't talk, I feel like this to the person sitting next to me at the oil place getting my oil change. I don't feel like I can have a conversation with somebody when I'm staying in the grocery line and I look at a magazine. I can't talk to people in this country about politics because the conversation is so toxic and so thin that I'm like, dude, I don't even want to open my mouth. Someone might shoot me. I don't know. But we should not be living in a country or in a moment that's so volatile that it's dangerous. And we are at that point. And this is why this election is so important, because I want everybody to do, and mark my word, when we win this election, we are not going to be out of the clear, because we're going to have to go through some whining and some stealing. And that is the facts. And everybody that's a political advisor, Biden, everybody knows that they're not going to walk away from this election without a nasty fight. And I don't want to fight nasty. I don't want my community to fight nasty, but I'm challenging everybody that's watching this, even if you're not that, you never voted, you're not that interested in it. Look at the people that you are voting for. Don't look away, look at them. Because everything you need to see is right in front of your face. And if you're choosing not to see that, then now I could be one of those people like, you know what? You got to take a test to vote. But back then, you know, they used testing voting to suppress voters within the African American community. But how does it make me feel when someone in this country refuses to look up a detail? When I am on the daily, when we're on the daily, being aware of what's going on. And so this person who just is not aware is also voting. And ignorance is really our enemy here. And I don't know how that's going to change, but these people that are trying to take power, they only benefit with uneducated people. That's their demographic. That's who they want to get. They got people believing that Trump's a Christian. Like, you know, all this bullshit. And I don't even like talking about him. But I have to in this moment. And that's what I have to say. That's my closing argument. We as a community need to reframe who our enemies are. And we need to make sure that we're not wasting our energy at everything that we think, because we don't want to be picked apart and villainized either. But I just am challenging our community to know our enemy. Not everyone's our enemy. All right, y'all. That's all I have for now. I want to thank everybody for coming on here. Austin, thank you. Tobias, Demarcus, Vince, Stormy had to go off. Also, we got Mr. Australian Leather, Shane, dropping in here. You're going to be on here in December. Hey, Shane. Thank you. Also, thank you to Jamal and Goddess for popping in and saying hello. Other than that, we are at the end of this episode in Throwing Light. What I would like to do now is I would like to invite all of you back here on November 3rd for a follow-up Let's Vote panel. If you're willing to do that, just let me know. But I would love to have y'all back in a month, and we can reassess where we are before we vote as a community. How does that sound?
Yes.
Perfect. Good.
I'm in. Do it. Thank you.
The new thing is here that before I close, we have to do one thing, and we have to do it together. Do you know what that is? So I'm going to say, if you're not throwing light, you're not acting right. And then we're all going to say it together. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Together. If you're not
throwing light, you're not acting right.
Okay, we're going to get this in sync at some point, but that's what's going on. Remember, if you're not throwing light, you're not acting right. We don't want to throw darkness. We're over darkness. Give us light. All right, y'all. So I'll be seeing all these lovely, beautiful people back in a month. That is it. Thank you for watching Throwing Light. I am LTJ Reeves. And if you're not throwing light, you're not acting right. See y'all soon.
Boom.